Kaboom. Another assorted arcade games from the 1980s.
References that will be a sign on Botchamania in the near future.
Yeah.
Um, so it's September. I'm a little bit older. I'm a little bit wiser. I'm starting to get hair in really weird places, man. So a lot of things have changed. I had a conversation with AJ to not give away my deck because I wasn't really paying attention. Because obviously I've been serving up some good old Texas barbecue, if you know what I'm just talking about, every
Oh my
night
god.
of every night of Halloween Horror Nights 30. So here's the thing: lots of things have changed. We have Telluride and TIFF now, and it's changed a lot of things, and there's a lot of questions to be answered currently. And just like everyone leaving SNL like a train wreck, welcome to another soft open of another Academy Awards prediction podcast here on the Popcast Network. My name is Owen, celebrating 25 years of Rent on Broadway. You know it. Adam Pascal and Anthony Rapp doing What You Own at the Tonys the other night. And like AJ, you mentioned, I like to use your terminology and your verbiage here. The Tonys trying to right the wrongs of Hollywood by making Moulin Rouge a multi-time award winner. Keep that in mind for later on. So we are live tonight. It is the 27th of September. It is Monday night, and we're going to talk a little bit of the Big Eight when it comes to the Academy Awards predictions. Joining me, as always, we have Ashley.
Oh, licorice pizza.
Yes. And speaking of which, not really. We're also going to go with the other member of our panel, and that would be AJ.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and appropriately enough, my connection is worse than it's ever been, so this is going to be really fun. It's gonna be playing
Oh,
Beat the
great.
Clock until I freeze again.
So we got to go fast, not because we're in a time crunch, it's because we're in a net crunch at this point. AJ, of course, has been basically pushing along the Popcast network and will continue to do so until Halloween Horror Nights is over. And then God knows what's going to happen because I got some interesting news about the weekend, but I can't really talk about it on here because it's not really public knowledge yet. So we'll get to that later on. So welcome everyone that's live in chat right now. Welcome Cassie. Good fella Tim, welcome. Lorraine, welcome. She said, recently revamped my predictions and I feel great about them. Well, very fortunate that you do. That makes one of us. I don't even really need to, I could speak for both of you right now, and I'm pretty sure I can 100% attest to the fact that none of us have any idea what we're doing at this point. But it's September, ladies and gentlemen.
It's starting to possibly build towards certain things.
There's a correction on that. We'll find out where we're going with that. Brian, welcome to chat. He says, my predictions are, but also like last month, I said what should have won at last year's Oscars, but my 2020 Big Eight, no summary for these, so we don't waste time. He did talk about News of the World, Tenet, The Five Bloods. He says not every Oscar-nominated movie, just the Big Eight. The category is animated, international, documentary as well. And Brian says the first infamous thing, we cannot call it Soggy Bottom anymore. Like it was already mentioned, Licorice Pizza is officially the PTA contender for the Academy Awards this year. And I love that name. It just rolls right off the tongue.
And of course, it follows my tirade about Phantom Thread and how if PTA says that that's the name of his movie, that's the name of his movie, and then of course it changes right after that, but whatever.
AJ, you'll be the only one that's going to get this on this panel, but you'll understand because of the conversations we've had many, many times when I was working at the theater. Soggy Bottom seems like something that would be a fake title that would be put on the cans before we take them upstairs. 100%. Lorraine says, literally logged into Gold Derby the other night to change my stuff and went, what on earth is licorice pizza?
But having seen
And
the trailer today, another assorted noises.
that makes one of us, because obviously I've been kind of trying to scare people daily, so I haven't had a chance to do anything on my own. So I have not watched this trailer yet, but I've heard great things. Brian also mentioned that he's eating cardboard. I mean Papa John's for dinner. So needless to say,
Wow.
Brian, I'm sorry, I'm not a Papa John's guy at all. I love my pizza, but I hate Papa John's. It will
Oh,
taste
yeah.
good when it's free, though. Keep that in mind. Got it.
This is off topic real quick, but I actually had a question for Brian. I think I forgot to ask last time.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Who was his MVP of the Trial of Chicago 7?
We'll
I'm
see what
assuming we
happens.
can.
Yeah, we'll see what
As I
happens.
say, I'm assuming we can talk until we get that answer.
We'll put that in the background for 5 minutes, and when the delay is fixed.
Accurate. I'll get you the answer in just a few minutes when Brian responds. He was the last one to put anything in chat, so I have a feeling it's probably coming sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, literally and figuratively, I was younger when we did this last Popcast, and now I'm a little older. Literally, like I made the Wayne's World reference, like I always do when it comes to stuff like that.
Aren't we all, though?
Yeah, more ways than
Aren't
one.
we all? Because it's like goes up day by day. I know probably for you, it like went from one digit to another digit, but like
Correct.
for all of us go up by 0.003, I guess, because that's as close as I can think to 365 into.
God, that's
to
some
1,000.
Vanilla Sky logic right there.
Yeah.
Tech support. Brian says, you will see in my personal supporting actor lineup.
That is something to keep an eye out for then. So yeah, state of the race. Most of the ones that people were thinking, I think, were going to be contenders, look to still be in good shape. The only one that I think that was getting some early buzz, which was the Starling, got a quite hefty slagging off from the critics. But I think we're still like in the top 10 of viewership for the weekend. So then again, so was Thunder Force, and I don't think Thunder Force is going to be in anybody Oscars list when we get round to February.
If there's something more insulting than the Razzies, that'd probably be where it is.
Then I'd say the big stuff. I think Campion won director at Venice, I think, didn't she? For if I can remember the name, even though Power of the Dog. And then interestingly, Maggie Gyllenhaal made it in for best screenplay at Venice as well. So there's momentum going behind that, which is great to see. And then the big one, I would say, because I think TIFF's predicted I think it's like 10 of the last 15 Best Picture winners in terms of its People's Choice, and they went with Kenneth Branagh's Belfast.
Yeah, you'll see a little bit of a difference when it comes to the now inclusion of Belfast in my lineups moving forward. Brian says there is one film that many people didn't like, but he did. So get ready for the triggers on my personal adapted lineup.
And then the biggest thing, at least personally to me, is the teaser trailer that they put out this weekend for Don't Look Up. Oh my word. I hope it isn't. Well, I hope it is the editor from Vice, because it seems like that's shoddily edited, combined with the editing of Bohemian Rhapsody. It don't look great.
So, but good for its awards chances. So
probably, yeah. If we're going on that previous history, there's so many camera cuts, and it's just like confusing for the general public, but the editors are like, so many camera cuts.
Alrighty then. So what we're gonna do, if you're new to the network, welcome. If you're not, then welcome back. Lorraine says, you might all think I'm insane for I'm leaving out of actress. Lorraine, I think AJ and I both have people out of actress that most people are putting in anyway, so there you go.
Something I want
Yeah, it's probably
Go ahead, AJ.
it's probably worth noting before anything that we were talking about category placement being an issue for some people. Apparently, there's still quite a few actresses who are still up in the air on their category placement. So that's been a pain in the ass. So not only are we trying to predict who gets in, but also where. Like that should almost be its own point system when we do our thing.
We'll see what happens.
The one thing that I wanted to add, just because I'll forget to do it in 4 months, they did switch up the BAFTA stuff, and I probably did this to highlight the... You remember last year when Olivia Colman and Kerry Mulligan both missed there for actress? Apparently what it was, basically there was like a long list of 12, and this small panel decided the 6 out of that 12, and they decided to go with neither of them. The new voting system for that and... all the acting categories, I think director, and then also foreign film, is there'll be a list of 15, but the 2 that get the highest amount of votes automatically get put in the final nominations, but which obviously won't be revealed. And then the panel actually goes through the remaining 10 or 13 or however many there's left. So it doesn't look like big actors and actresses that get absolutely snubbed at BAFTA that go on to win Oscars, and then it makes no sense. They're trying to make it less controversial. And here comes our controversial choices. Go ahead, AJ.
All I need to know is if they're going to snub Denzel again.
Oh boy.
We'll see what happens with Tragedy of Macbeth at the London Film Festival. We'll see. So yeah.
So
I'll let. Well, do you want to do it, Owen? It's your
couple
thing.
pieces in. Well, it's fine. Just a couple pieces in chat. Brian says it's Hank Corwin. He says, I think we do not know that. Murphy Boy says, is Balf going leading or supporting? We'll get to that. Don't worry. Goodfella Tim says, many Saints of Newark, at least one nomination. Got my fingers crossed.
That's the kind of thing to get.
From what I've
That's
heard,
the kind of thing to get in.
Oh, go ahead, AJ.
I was gonna say that, if anything, that might be the kind of thing that gets in costume design. Maybe.
Yeah, possibly. The thing that... The big thing I've heard so far from the reviews, because obviously it opened over here, because, the Sopranos, this big American show, gets its premiere in the UK. Okay. If you're a fan of The Sopranos, it's very good. If you're sort of borderline or not a fan, there's so many things that are like calling back the things that happen in the TV series. It might be a bit problematic. But all in all, it's a solid film. It's probably just not as impactful as it could be as sort of a standalone, certain films are that relate to other ones.
I have no idea what to anticipate now, because I heard the opposite. I heard it tries really hard to be standalone and has few callbacks, but that's... Now I have no idea.
Considering some of the people that watched it said it was interesting to see these characters, before they either end up dead or end up you know, how their mentalities are. So it's because it's a prequel. It sort of is like the best thing to do, but it, you know, for some people it felt sort of a mix. But well, I mean, to be honest, we'll see it when the Americans actually get it, because it's sort of it's their baby rather than the British critics that obviously jumped on the bandwagon like 3 or 4 months after it was broadcast, because that's the only time Channel 4 could get the rights to broadcast it over here back in like 98 and 99. So
And don't worry, that review's coming sooner rather than later too. I do want to make mention to good fella Tim, because he gets dropped a lot in this network. I will want to thank him for throughout the years for giving us so many great versus suggestions too. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. AJ appreciates his versus suggestions he comes up with, and we have done a ton of them, and we're going to continue to do more of them as we progress through versus history. Ashley, if you'd like to call out the Lorraine comment on chat, please do, because I'm trying to make sense of it in my head.
Gandolfini would have had a heck of a narrative if he got in. Oh, sorry, Michael Gandolfini would have had a heck of a narrative if he got in.
Yes.
Nominated for an Oscar playing the same role that his father won Emmys for.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I was reading that correctly, so I just put the burden of proof on you.
And of course, Bry brings the semi-debacle of the Emmys, in which the only thing that Disney won that night was Hamilton.
Well, they're not winning any new annual pass holders. Anyway.
Shoot.
Yeah. So basically, I will state right now, we're going to go with, like I mentioned before, we're going to do the top 8, and we go all the way to the end, and the beginning of next year, we'll predict all the categories once more. Now, granted, because of the so-on canceling of the Golden Globes, basically at this point, that show is not going to be something we're covering on this network, but we're going to do everything else moving along with award season the same way we've done it every year. Last year was kind of a mixed bag, and it didn't really work like we wanted to. We've already got to jump on that because we actually started predictions in August the year, so we're good on that.
And we also know when most of the award ceremonies are now, because they're actually announcing things, and when the nominations are coming. So
yes, and good fella Tim says I have a lot of new versus ideas. Good, send them my way immediately. So yeah, we're going to do the big 8 categories, and we're going to take it home because I'm worried about AJ's internet crashing, because I know how wonderful his internet truly is, because I had it for so long.
I'm hoping it's better on this month, but yeah.
Well, Suddenlink to me is only good with the email, and it's the email I use as business email to this day. Everything else, no. Best adapted screenplay.
Am I alone in something?
Maybe not.
Go on.
Do elaborate.
I'm going to tell you right up front, it's here, but I'm really wondering how much we might be jumping the gun on Nightmare Alley.
Ooh, hot take.
Because I feel like it has the potential to be a really, really good genre movie. And like...
Uh-oh.
It already started.
Del Toro.
You roughly cut off at genre movie.
Genre movie, and then I heard the word Del Toro out of the corner of my ear. That's about it.
It has... obviously the great potential to be a really good genre movie and a really good Del Toro movie, which obviously is high caliber. But I'm wondering how much of its buzz is based solely on Del Toro's last movie won Best Picture.
It's possible.
So I don't feel confident going all in on it. Like, I have it here, but I really feel like I wonder if we're all jumping the gun, sight unseen. So with that in mind, and let me know if I need to repeat anything.
Okay.
I have House of Gucci, The Lost Daughter, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and The Tragedy of Macbeth. I was going to replace Nightmare Alley with The Humans, but at the last minute I thought if there Del Toro has gotten in screenplay quite a, like even when he does genre movies like The Shape of Water and The Rings, he still gets in screenplay or even wins screenplay in Return of the King's Case. So he could get here based solely on name value, or if the movie is really great. But like I said, we have no idea. But yeah, that's really all I really considered for adapted screenplay. It's a pretty barren category as usual.
All right. That makes it real simple and to the point. Ashley, what do you got?
Oh, well, there is one thing I should probably mention. I know we almost did a category quickly. Um, Before I didn't say Macbeth because I was wondering how much of it was copy and paste. But I was reading comments on the trailer since I don't watch trailers, and they were saying that the dialogue seems to have really been amplified. So I went ahead and put that here.
Okay. What do you got, Ashley?
So I'm biased with Nightmare Alley because Kim Newman co-wrote it, and Kim Newman is like king of like knowing 70s and 80s schlocky horror, like, you know, like Videodrome times 1,000. Like, you know, it's in the Blockbuster Video 99p rental bin sort of thing. So him going to, because admittedly I hadn't heard of the original, but then seeing what happened in the original one from the 40s and realizing we're in a sort of, well, still a PC culture, but we can do a lot more things visually now than we can do from back in the sort of late 40s. All I will say is, chickens, be careful about your heads. I'm intrigued to see how somebody with that sort of background will get the macabre, you know, psychological nature of what clearly happens in Nightmare Alley. So yeah, that stays. Power of the Dog stays, Lost Daughter stays, and House of Gucci stays. The switch for me, Serrano drops out because having looked at the notes about the people that have seen it when I think it was at either Venice or Toronto, but John Michael McDonough's The Forgiven. It looks like, well, knowing the history of him with Cavalry and the Guard and War on Everyone and everything, I do like that sort of like black comedy drama sort of aspect. And considering how it involves like a random accident that somehow affects the locals as well as Western tourists at this hotel in Morocco, and it's got like Matt Smith formerly of Doctor Who and Ray Fiennes and Jessica Chastain. There's a good enough cast that's making me think good. So
Yeah, I
I'm
hadn't.
sticking it in here.
I knew vaguely of the movie. That's the first time I've heard the cast list, and I am very intrigued.
Hang on, I
Even
need to go to the cast list now to remember the other names because they're the sort of lead ones. Caleb Landry Jones is in it, of course.
nice.
And I also recognise Alec Jennings from his English stage work and whatever. Saeed Tagamawi, who was the lead in La Haine from, you know, 95. He's in it as well. It's looking like it's got potential. And it was at Toronto. But the amount of reviews out of it that were just praising the script, and I wouldn't say much else, but like the script. And normally with his films, sort of it doesn't matter about the casting. If the script is good enough, it works with anybody. So, and just, you know, stick it in there. Sorry, Bergerac, even though it's annoying because that's got a lot of praise as well. But, you know, things will change. Things will move in, things will move out. We got 4 months.
So, speaking of that, I do want to say right now that if you're new to the network and you've not watched these before, AJ talks, Ashley talks, and then I just throw out my answers, and that's the end of it. So basically, it's kind of like they have more detailed descriptions of everything than I do. I will be watching things this year. I just will not be watching things this year until it's too late at this rate. Real quick before we go any further, Brian is going to list his 2020 lineups, which I want to mention before we go into the lineups of the ones in chat. He says personal adapted lineup is Better Days is 5th, Pieces of a Woman, News of the World, Nomadland, and the United States versus Billie Holiday.
That's interesting.
I figured you'd have that response or something to the account of that.
I love the fact that Bry's like, I'm not kidding on my number 1. I'm just disappointed in number 2.
Yeah, Nomadland sucks. Anyway, maybe I'm just a little butthurt.
That's overkill.
Dude, I'm just butthurt about the fact that it unjustly won picture. Okay, I'm gonna hold that to the fire forever. Brian says adapted lineup is The Humans, Lost Daughter, A Journal for Jordan, Nightmare Alley, and Power of the Dog. Lorraine says Power of the Dog, House of Gucci, Take a Shot, Tragedy of Macbeth, Nightmare Alley, and Coda. Smurfy Boy says The Humans, Lost Daughter, Nightmare Alley, Tragedy of Macbeth, and House of Gucci. Well, so my answer has already been thrown out there. So it's funny, Lorraine, we are sharing that thought process because my best adapted screenplay lineup is also Coda, House of Gucci, The Tragedy of Macbeth, Nightmare Alley, and Power of the Dog. Now, the last duel, yep, it went over the top rope and hit the arena floor. I don't know if it's going to come back. It may be holding on with its feet, but I think it's been eliminated personally. But we'll see how far, if that changes or not. I mean, granted, it could be any rebooking of the Rumble. Who knows? So I think at this point, I'm okay with that lineup for 5 as of this moment. And I think that works pretty well. Coda is the only thing that's kind of on the bubble for me, but I think Coda is going to do a lot better than people think it is.
Yeah, I really wanted to keep it, but it was what I bumped out when I changed my mind on Macbeth.
And I didn't have Macbeth, and I put Macbeth in and bumped out, like we were talking about a minute ago. I ended up bumping out Last Duel, so.
I'm just wondering if I will still have Nightmare Alley or not when next month is what I'm really questioning. Maybe I'm starting to underestimate it, but it feels very early for a movie like that to have the buzz that it has, but
right.
We'll see.
All right. So we're going to the next bit of screenplay. It's going to be original screenplay.
We have more competition here.
Thank you, Lorraine. That's very true. Great minds think alike. What do you got, AJ?
I have Belfast, Come On, Come On, Don't Look Up, The French Dispatch, and Licorice Pizza. Belfast was very easy to say, well, that's probably here now. Like, I obviously I hate using the word lock, but I put Belfast here very quickly.
I mean,
I'll say that.
I know you mentioned it when we talked about it last month, but now that the trailer came out and it's like it's set in 1969, and Kenneth Branagh was born in Belfast and left Belfast at the age of 9 when the Troubles were happening, and it's like, yeah, this is definitely his like unofficial autobiography, isn't it? Uh-oh.
Dead silence while we chug the giant bottle of water.
Hey, I didn't know we were going to get technical difficulties. Go ahead, AJ.
I held on to come on at the last minute because I initially put Spencer in its place. Because we talked last time about how we might have been underestimating Spencer in other categories besides actress.
Right.
Which is still likely. I feel about Don't Look Up the way I feel about Nightmare Alley. Like, is it just the director's previous work we're going on when it could easily maybe fall short? But the thing that keeps making me hold on to this is the fact that Don't Look Up is what DiCaprio did instead of Licorice Pizza and Nightmare Alley. So there's got to be something really, really to this script. Um, and the Andersons speak for themselves. And there's one thing that's a couple of things have really broken out here. The Almodovar thing has gotten a lot of attention now, Parallel Mothers. And he's a previous winner in this category, so that's something. And King Richard has been breaking out in a big way that I wasn't expecting. I don't know about other people. And the thing, like I was saying, the thing that really won me over with, and you could take or leave this kind of thing depending on who you trust. But the fact that Barry Jenkins was praising King Richard makes me feel like I feel like that's significant.
Yeah,
But
sure.
but there's just as much that hasn't been seen that that has been seen, so it's really hard to say. But and of course Sorkin is always looming. But I landed on those five. I'm not completely confident because I still feel like I'm sleeping on Spencer too much, but I don't know which of these five I would take out to put it there. So because I don't think we'd be overestimating either of the Andersons yet, anyway.
No.
And yeah, so that's my five.
Ashley, what do you got?
I have Belfast, The Card Counter, French Dispatch, Licorice Pizza, and Spencer. I still have yet to properly catch Card Counter, but the synopsis and again more of the praise from when it got its debut before it did show up on Netflix. That just looks like something that would be perfect for sort of the Oscars to sort of grip on. Showing again that Schrader still hasn't really lost it, especially after, the resurgence with First Reformed and everything. So, and yeah, Spencer, I wanted to give it a bit more recognition, given like how much of applaud it, like it says a lot now that everybody thought last year that Jennifer Houston was the or Hudson, sorry, Jennifer Hudson was the lock-in for.
Who's that?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure she's going to be playing Whitney Houston at some point as well, because
Reasons.
that's all we can do.
We've got a Whitney Houston movie coming, but I can't remember who it is.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head either, but everyone was like, "What, Hudson's a lock." It got to the point where there's so many people that aren't talking about the movie and just talking about Stewart that it seems like she is now the definitive lock. Among possibly other things, which we'll get to. But it also seems quite a good move to sort of situate it where it is, sort of in a country house for Christmas, rather than like what we had with Diana all those years. Sorry, I'm getting flashbacks back. And yeah, the Andersons are there for obvious reasons, and I already mentioned, the Belfast Branagh deal, and considering how much of they're gonna have to reshoot Death on the Nile, considering if we're going by how the plot goes, the guy that's part of the murder,
Oh God.
basically got even painted out of his own movie called Crisis, where the poster just suddenly has Gary Oldman and not the other guy, even though he's the lead. It's going to be even more awkward for the Lone Ranger poster now. It's like, we can't include either of them. Do we just show the horse? But yeah, that's my five.
Hey, Barry Pepper was the star of that movie anyway.
And no, Tom Wilkinson as well. I forgot that he's the villain in that. Tom Wilkinson is good in pretty much anything, even video games. Owen.
Good Lord. All right. First off, it's called I Want to Dance with Somebody. And it looks very interesting, to say the least. Naomi Aki is playing Whitney Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Actress. I think Ashton Sanders was just cast in it too.
Yes, that's Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, that's coming in the near future. It's 2022, according to what I'm seeing on IMDb right now. Brian says, if the French Dispatch gets in screenplay, Jason Schwartzman would get nominated. I support this. His personal original lineup for 2020 is The Trial of the Chicago 7, Promising Young Woman, Judas and the Black Messiah, Onward, and Another Round.
That's really solid. That's a very solid lineup.
And I did it in order, right? Because he has it in numbered order, so that would mean that Another Round would win, according to this. Brian says, original screenplay, Belfast, Don't Look Up, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, and Mass. Lorraine says, Belfast, Licorice Pizza, Don't Look Up, The French Dispatch, and Mass. Brian says, so Kenneth Branagh goes from director of one of the worst Disney movies in recent years to Belfast.
Yep, it happens that way.
At least he didn't direct For the Dark World.
Dear Lord. Smurfy Boy says Belfast, Mass, Licorice Pizza, French Dispatch, and Don't Look Up. So yeah, this is the only category in the top 8 that I did not change anything from August. And here's the reason why. Now, Mike Mills is always looming heavy above everybody right now, and I really think Come On, Come On has a really good shot, and I think that it being said is something that could easily happen. So AJ, I concur with your commentary on that one. Mass, I think, may be underestimated by all of us except Rand Dowd. So it's a possibility that that's going to be a bigger deal. King Richard, as we alluded to a few minutes ago, is something that I feel that is going to overperform at this point. But I'm still hanging on to being the Ricardos. And I'm going to hang on to being the Ricardos until the wheels fall off. That also joins Belfast, Don't Look Up, French Dispatch, and Licorice Pizza. So yes, my original screenplay lineup has not changed at all. And that's the only category I can say that for.
So you had Belfast in before.
I had Belfast in, but that's all I had it for. Was just screenplay.
Because it was like completely off my radar, I think.
It was off my radar for everything except for screenplay. So, I mean, that's what I went with. So now I'm a lot more happier with its involvement in my lineup because it feels like, it's something that belongs there now. Speaking of potentially Belfast and also Mass, Best Supporting Actress.
The actresses are fucking killing me this year with the category placements.
Same.
This is yeah. So I can't remember if I mentioned them before, but Frances McDormand, Katrina Balfe, Jodie Comer, and Cate Blanchett are all up in the air on category placement. So, based on that, and by the way, I think with the exception of McDormand, is that going to potentially be an issue for them? Like, will they end up getting left out because people are just so frazzled over what their fucking category placement is? Even though Lakeith Stanfield showed that they'll do whatever they want anyway.
Yeah, I honestly think that might be the case with Frances. She's like, I'm supporting. I'm like, no, you're leading.
Yeah. Everybody seems to be putting McDormand in leading right now, but I'm gonna run with this supporting thing.
Okay.
You're not alone, AJ. Uh-oh.
Hang on, tension mounting. He did a dramatic pause. We can say it's a dramatic pause, even though it's actually the internet being weird.
I don't have to repeat myself because I saw you guys freeze, so I haven't said anything yet.
That's good.
So,
And the funny thing is
So,
he's been making that face for just himself, so it would be really along with everything that's going on.
so in this very concerning category, I have Ann Dowd for Mass, Kirsten Dunst for Power of the Dog, Ingenue Ellis for King Richard, Jane Howdyshaw for The Humans, and Frances McDormand for Macbeth. I had to take Ruth Negga out, and I really didn't want to. Like, I'm still regretting it, but
Sure.
I was gonna take Howdyshaw out, but there's something else coming that's gonna back that up, I feel like. Um, as far as explanations, Ingenue Ellis has gotten a lot of buzz now with with King Richard getting. I don't know if King Richard's going to be one of those movies that has buzz now that's going to get buried when other stuff starts coming out, which is a possibility. But it's so strong right now, and she seems to have such a strong enough part that I went ahead and went with her. She's one of those ones also where she's been around long enough to where this whole category outside of McDormand could be a total first time nomination fest. Assuming Ruth Nega's out, but I don't feel confident about taking Ruth Nega out like I did, but we'll see how that goes. And I was kind of considering putting Katrina Balfe here instead of in leading as well, but it's just so messed up right now with the category placements. I don't know what to do. So that's my 5, but until we get categories worked out, it's just frustrating, honestly.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do you got, Ashley?
A few changes here. I'm probably making the mistake. I might as well mention it here. Mass is pretty much getting moved out of everything, just because I fear that might be one that just gets enveloped by all these other films. I don't want it to be. That's why I put it in the first list.
It feels like it's very, very comparable to The Humans.
Yeah,
Like there's 2 movies at the same time that are a little too close to similar feels.
and if that gets the right campaigning behind it, it'll happen. Which pivots to at least one of my choices here. So I have Toni Collette for Nightmare Alley, Judi Dench for Belfast, Kirsten Dunst for Power of the Dog, Marlee Matlin for Coda, and Ruth Negga for Passing. This, I don't want to say Judi Dench is a lock, but it seems like from what I've heard of that performance in it, it is that sort of like good archetypal supporting role. And Judi Dench has, I think, been nominated in it like 6 times. The infamous one, of course, like being, when she won it for however many seconds.
I think it's 8 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I think if they get enough sort of campaigning behind it, and rightfully so, because it's still a good performance, I think there's a definite chance that Marlee Matlin is making it in here.
That'd be a great return after most people seem to forget by now that she's won.
Well, just because of as you say, it's an absolute cluster of it might not even be Judi Dench for Belfast, or like with last year with Judas, we could just have two in the same category and whatever.
Yeah, the thing that messed me up is I was really thinking about Dench a lot, and then I got so caught up in my frustration with Balfe's placement, I kind of just forgot.
Yeah, it's just I mean, there's a lot. We need these festivals to actually do actor and actress, not just the film, because then we might have an idea.
Get on that, Hollywood.
I can't remember whether they do that for the London Film Festival.
All right. So, real quick, Brian's supporting actress lineup from 2020: Lily Collins for Mank, Dominique Fishback for Judas and the Black Messiah, Olivia Cooke, Sound of Metal, and Amanda Seyfried for Mank, and Ellen Burstyn for Pieces of a Woman.
I can't get over that Cypher thing, but it's fine.
It's worth adding the addendums for Olivia Cook. He said the best thing from my least favored picture nominee, and for Amanda Seyfried it was nerds.
It would have been our meme last, but AJ doesn't like Mank.
It would have been our meme from last year. We have a lizard just in the fucking street. That's a meme. What the shit is that? That's a meme.
We gotta hope we find something good for our 2022 season. Something as good
Oh,
as
I think we've
had.
I mean, it's just the title of it, but I think like hang on, list of. Hang on, I need to go to the 94th Academy Awards.
While you're doing this, as per usual, I'm gonna get into the rest of the lineup of everyone in chat. Brian says Balf for Belfast, Dowd for Bass, Dunce for Power of the Dog, Ellis for King Richard, and How to Shell for the Humans. Very similar to AJ's lineup. Lorraine says Dunce for Power of the Dog, Dench for Belfast, Mara for Nightmare Alley. That's the one we haven't seen in a while. Streep for Don't Look Up, and DeBose for West Side Story. That makes sense. Smurvy Boy says Judi Dench, Anjanae. Oh, long day. Anjaneo Ellis, Frances McDormand, Kirsten Dunst, and Ann Dowd. So my response is the fact that I changed one thing. So I ended up bumping, looking here to make sure. Yeah, I have a lot of hope for Nightmare Alley, unlike AJ, who's completely unsure, like we all are right now. AJ seems to be a lot more unsure about Nightmare Alley than some. But yeah, and with what Ashley said a few minutes ago, it was mentioned, and I'm going to go with it. So yeah, I bumped it out for Judi Dench for Belfast. I think Belfast is a big deal, and that's going to join my normal four, which is going to be Kirsten Dunst for Power of the Dog, Frances McDormand for Tragedy of Macbeth. Don't worry, AJ, you're not going to die on that hill alone. And Dowd for Mass, and yes, Jack Jason to get on the Hollywood stage once more. Marlee Matlin for Coda. I honestly think that this, like AJ mentioned before, this is Marlee Matlin's return, and I think that it's deservingly so, because she has not done anything in a long time, and I think that this movie is going to get a lot of praise, and I feel that this is going to be her nomination. Do I think she'll win? Not if Frances McDormand's in supporting actress. But I will say that I think she's going to be a threat, and she deserves to be.
The meme is what actually happened back in March, which nobody paid attention to, but you know, the Golden Bear at Berlin was won by a Romanian film, which translated from the Romanian is entitled Bad Luck Banging or Loony Porn. It's coming out over here apparently in a few weeks. I think it's being considered for Romania's entry. I think. That's why I was trying to double check in terms of the submissions, see whether Romania's already committed. We'll find out We'll find out in mid-October, so we'll find out in a few weeks if Bad Luck Banging or Loony Porn is gonna make it in. That's just gonna be you know. As soon as I saw the title, I was like, "Wow!" It got my attention. And having looked at the script, oh boy, David Lynch will be going, "What the hell is this shit?"
So that's a weird segue to run into Best Supporting Actor, but here we are.
All right, let's see if I can get through this clusterfuck without cutting out. This is I don't know what the hell's going on with this category.
Same.
So let's just give it a whirl and see what happens.
Oh, and then
eventually.
All right, are we here now?
Yeah.
Yes, we're
All
live.
right, let's do this. Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, Corey Hawkins for Tragedy of Macbeth, Kieran Hines for Belfast, Richard Jenkins for The Human, Jesse Plemons for Power of the Dog. Since I said him last, let's go ahead and talk about Jesse Plemons real quick. Apparently, Cody Smith McPhee has just as much buzz now.
Yeah.
And I would say, or are they going to go for somebody that young here? But Lucas Hedges was quite recent and was like 5 years younger than Cody McPhee is now. Then, but I feel like Plemons has more behind him as far as career goes and how attention grabbing he's been for a long time now. So I think that's the only reason. Not to say it totally could double up since supporting actor has become that category lately. um, I almost took out Corey Hawkins, but I didn't because I took out Jared Leto. Because I just barely had Leto in last time because my thought process was if they really, really loved Leto, he would last year. And I didn't have Cooper in, and Cooper was a very last minute addition when I took out Leto because not only was Licorice Pizza's trailer just brought out, and like I said, while I don't watch trailers, I will gladly read the comments on trailers. And people seem to really be thinking that Cooper was standing out. And then it further occurred to me, this is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It's like I've got it in all the other big categories, but if there's one category that Anderson has really mastered outside of screenplay, it's getting his actors or getting at least an actor in. And it would be really weird if Licorice Pizza did as well as I think it will and didn't get an acting nomination. While weirder things have happened, I feel like you got to bank on PTA getting an actor in, so I put Cooper in. As far as Kieran Hines, I'm under the impression that Jamie Dornan has just as much buzz. I don't know. I don't want to sound like I have anything personal against Jamie Dornan, but I just can't. I'm wondering if it'll be like, you know how Pattinson and Kristen Stewart had a really hard time getting respect after Twilight, to the point that Stewart's only going to just now get her first nomination. I feel like Dornan's still in the process of breaking away from his little franchise there, I think. But and as far as Kieran Hines being an actor that's been around for so long and has worked with so many industry members, I feel like if somebody's going to get in for Belfast, it would be him. But like we were talking about with Power of the Dog, doubling up has been supporting actor's thing now, as of late. So it's hard to say. Apparently, some early reactions for being the Ricardos have singled out. They've singled out Bardem. But apparently they've also really singled out J.K. Simmons in a big way, which is very interesting. And lastly, talking about Richard Jenkins, who appears to be the frontrunner right now from what I'm hearing. But I've also heard the argument that A24's plate is really full because they have Macbeth and Come On, Come On. But I feel like if Jenkins is the front runner now, there's not going to be a whole lot of campaigning that needs to be done. And I've heard the argument that if they drop the ball on campaigning the humans, it'll just help him for Nightmare. But I don't really remember what kind of part he has in Nightmare Alley, so I really don't know. And you know how I feel about it at this point. But so I see the humans being fine if he's the front runner now, and that's the reason I was talking about why I didn't abandon Howdy Show and supporting actress either. Because if Jenkins is here and is a big player, then they will see the humans will be acknowledged, and if anything, it'll be the reverse. When people see Jenkins in Nightmare, that'll just remind them of the humans instead of the other way around. So that's how I came to my 5.
All right. What do you got, Ashley?
I have Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, Kieran Hines for Belfast, Richard Jenkins. I don't know which one of the two. One of them. Jesse Plemons for Power of the Dog. and Timothy Spall for Spencer, because a lot of people have praised his role as the sort of homeowner of the country house, and sort of how nosy he is and sort of wanting to get sort of his own sort of scoop on what's going on. And mainly because I want him to get an Oscar nomination. He doesn't have to win, just give him a nomination after like 30 years of work. Please? But yeah, on the Richard Jenkins front, it's like, as I just say, it's either The Humans or Nightmare Alley, but I don't care which.
That's what you do every year, so it makes sense. So you're not right, but you're not wrong at the same time. So that's it. Like it basically just counteracts itself. So it's cool.
Well, it's like he's gonna get nominated for one,
right?
but
Of course.
Because we haven't heard enough about them, I don't want to commit just yet. I'm just pretty sure he's gonna make it in somewhere. That's why I just say Richard Jenkins for something. It depends what gets the most campaigning and whatever, and which one he feels more confident about, I would say.
Right. Brian says, personal supporting actor lineup for 2020. Coleman Domingo for Da 5 Bloods. Frank Langella for The Trial of the Chicago 7. David Strathairn for Nomadland. Thomas Bo Larson for Another Round. And Eddie Redmayne for The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Nice.
Not bad. Apparently, I'm sure you know this, AJ, Bo Larson was a gym teacher or soccer coach in the character Without Spoilers in Another Round.
Yeah.
And
Let's see what we got.
Bri just mentioning as well, speaking of Spall, remember how AJ went all in on Mr. Turner, which came to nothing.
I remember that.
Wait, did you just make the noise that he did in that film every time? Yes. Call back.
Some might say I do that on a regular basis.
I got a question.
Oh.
We all have that one movie that we really go for that always gets snubbed. Why is it mine that always get called back?
I don't know.
Take it up with the historian of the network, AJ.
Okay.
Hang on, I'm going to quickly look up what Diane Warren's doing the soundtrack on and campaign on that, because she's going to lose again.
All right, Brian says, supporting actor lineup, Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, Jonah Hill for Don't Look Up, Jason Isaacs for Masked, Richard Jenkins for The Humans, and Jared Leto for House of Gucci. Murphy Boy says Dornan, McPhee, Leto, Jenkins, and Cooper. Lorraine says, best supporting actor, Leto for House of Gucci, Plemons for The Power of the Dog, Hawkins for The Tragedy of Macbeth, Hines for Belfast, and Cody Smith McPhee for Power of the Dog. So freaking happy I could get Cody in, and I will go down with it. Smurfy Boy says, should we be worried about Jesse Plemons because none of the reviews for Power of the Dog really mention him?
Yeah. I know. I'm just kind of going on name value, which is something that does happen occasionally.
Right.
But we'll find out.
So yeah, my switch key here, I dropped 2 out of my lineup. Jared Leto was casualty for House of Gucci, and Jesse Plemons for Power of the Dog. I just felt like we needed to do a little switch key because I'm seeing a lot of more acclaimed performances going a little bit different directions. So adding Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, Corey Hawkins for The Tragedy of Macbeth, and Richard Jenkins for Nightmare Alley, I chose Ciarán Hinds for Belfast and Cody Smith McPhee for The Power of the Dog. After hearing what you mentioned about J.K. Simmons and being the Ricardos, knowing that he's playing Fred Mertz excites me greatly, and I cannot wait to see it happen.
I'm not entirely sure who that is.
They're the next door neighbors, Fred and Ethel Mertz.
Ah.
He's playing William Frawley, the William Frawley who played Fred Mertz. So I'm very excited for this. Because I know that is a fantastic casting, and yes, that's genius, 100%. Would I love to put J.K. Simmons and Richard Jenkins in both lineups? Absolutely. And I have a feeling if I end up bumping someone out, that's exactly who's going in there next month. Mark my word. But yeah, that's my supporting actor lineup, and we'll see what's going on with that. So now we're going to move in to Best Actress.
Disclaimer once again. McDormand, Balfe, Comer, and Blanchett have no idea where the hell they are. So to keep that in mind. I have Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, Lady Gaga for House of Gucci, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. For some reason, I don't know how sold I am on Gaga anymore. Like I said, it's really just a case of when House of Gucci gets seen, then we'll have a better idea of how much passion there may or may not be. I did flirt with the idea of putting Kidman in her place. But suddenly I feel very confident about Stewart. Obviously, I started to get very confident about Cruz when people were saying that it's like a career best performance, and we're talking about somebody that's been nominated 3 times and won one of those. So that to say it's a career best performance, especially when she's in an Almodovar movie, is really. I feel like she's a really good bet right now. As far as Chastain, obviously, The Eyes of Tammy Faye has like failed in a lot of ways recently. But having seen the performance, and maybe that's swaying me in a way that it shouldn't be, it's a fucking juggernaut performance. Like, it is a massive, massive performance, and she's loved enough in the industry that I think she'll be fine. And if all else fails, she's got the makeup damaged my skin permanently thing to campaign with. But I can see that performance hanging on because it's just that it's big enough to, despite the movie kind of faltering in other aspects. So that's, and like I said, I was really thinking of putting Balfe here instead of supporting if I was going to put her, but there's too much going on, so I don't know. Until those category placements are done, I don't know what to do, but that's where I'm going to stand for now.
AJ, do we have any idea when they're going to officially make it known what the category placement for these ones that are on the bubble right now is actually going to be?
Probably not, because there's always the whole. There's been other people, but Winslet's the first one that comes to mind, where the category placements change from show to show.
Right.
Probably going to be what's happening. But I would say I genuinely don't know. Because I would say when SAG comes out, but even SAG has switched them up with what the Oscars ended up doing, so I have no idea.
Also true. What do you got, Ashley?
Traffic comes to mind.
Ooh. I have Blanchett for Nightmare Alley, Olivia Colman for Lost Daughter, Lady Gaga for House of Gucci, Frances McDormand for Tragedy Macbeth, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. So yeah, quite a few moved out. Kidman moved out, Chastain moved out, Ziegler moved out because the West Side Story trailer did not seem that impressive. It just seemed like, oh, we're just remaking it. Okay. So that's why other people moved in. I am getting a little concerned about House of Gucci because apparently they're still doing test screenings as of only a few weeks back, and this is supposed to be coming out like end of November, and it's unless it's the secret film at the London Film Festival, it's gonna miss every single major film festival. Normally that isn't a great move. Whether it's enough because of the cast and because it's a Ridley Scott that it can get away, without trying to do any of the festivals, I don't know. But if we're already doing test screenings literally like 8 or 9 weeks before it's opening, that seems a little bit awkward. but we'll see.
All right. So Brian's actress lineup for 2020: Tina Fey for Soul, Honor Neefsey for Wolf Walkers, Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andra Day for the United States versus Billie Holiday, and yes, Brian, you got it right, Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman.
Yes.
There is shoot no other answer. I don't care who you are. If it is the correct answer, you're entitled to your opinion, even though you're wrong. Brian says Olivia Colman for Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mother, Jennifer Lawrence for Don't Look Up, Renee Rensive for The Worst Person in the World, and Kristen Stewart for Stewart. Spencer, take a shot. Smurfy Boy says Lady Gaga, Kristen Stewart, Chastain, Coleman, and Cruz. Lorraine says Chastain, Gaga, Balfe, McDormand, and Hudson. That's the first person that's mentioned Hudson on this for something that's such a certainty for a lot of voters right now. I guess we'll see if that goes anywhere. And I also am not mentioning Hudson, but I will say right now that I did make a change, a singular change. I made a secondary change, but I changed my mind. Sorry, Stephanie Germanata. No Lady Gaga on this lineup, sadly. I not necessarily losing faith in House of Gucci, even though my lineups are stating that I kind of am, but I really felt like it's not going to happen, but we'll see. Again, it's September. Keep in mind, these lineups change periodically. Ashley's have changed. AJ's have changed. The panel on chat has changed, and I have changed. So it's going to change. We're not going to get a locked 5 for quite a while. But that being said, Best Actress, Cate Blanchett for Nightmare Alley, Kristen Stewart for Spencer, Catriona Balfe for Belfast, Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos. I have no words to respond to anything further. Best Actor!
All right, this took some decision making, but there's somebody that was quite divisive when their performance was being reviewed, and usually divisive may not matter. If anything, it just means people might get more passionate, but it caused me to oust somebody that was a big player before, which could be a mistake, but we'll see. There's a lot going on. I have Peter Dinklage for Cyrano, Adam Driver for House of Gucci, Joaquin Phoenix for Come On, Come On, Will Smith for King Richard, and Denzel for Macbeth. I took out Cumberbatch. A lot of people are saying it's his best performance, and Plainview-esque. A lot of people are saying he's totally and completely miscast. It's like right down the middle. And yeah, with the idea of, I feel like The Power of the Dog could be a divisive movie in general, which once again doesn't really stop anything necessarily. With all the other choices here, bringing in Dinklage as the 5th spot, I took Cooper out for Nightmare Alley because even though nominating Cooper is their favorite thing to do, I can't see him doubling up. I questioned Phoenix for a second because as much respect as he has, there's always the concept of the Afterglow nomination where somebody wins and then they immediately get nominated again, like Rockwell, for whatever reason that was. But
damn.
I briefly toyed with the idea of, with Phoenix having won after so many nominations, if they would think, okay, we're done with him now. But I feel like he's too beloved in the industry that would happen to him, so I held on to him. But if one of these people were to fall, the person that is unseen as of now that I was thinking about was Andrew Garfield for Tick Tick Boom, and if that's getting slept on just because it hasn't been seen yet, and how all it takes is being seen, and then something can just totally explode for all we know. But I kind of feel like the same thing with Gaga and Driver. My House of Gucci people here are just kind of coasting. But Driver is somebody else who has a shitload of respect in the industry. Plus, he's got a net to back him up. I don't know how much backup that is necessarily, but it's something. So, and then Dinklage obviously got really great notices when people started seeing Cyrano. And with King Richard where it's at, yeah, and then obviously I'm gonna go with Denzel because of course I am. So.
Fair. Ashley, best actor.
Short and sweet. Haven't changed it from last month. So Nicolas Cage for Pig, Benedict Cumberbatch for Power of the Dog, Peter Dinklage for Cyrano, Will Smith for King Richard, and Denzel for Tragedy Macbeth. There's not enough that I'm seeing from other performances yet, mainly because nearly all of them, you know, the only thing that from the list that I can see that's sort of maybe got seen is June, but like, because nobody's technically seen House of Gucci, and nobody's seen, Don't Look Up and Tick Tick Boom, I was contemplating putting in Jude Hill for Belfast, but it's very rare for child performances to get recognised.
As we just repeated with Alan Kim last year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but this is lead.
Yeah.
Rather than supporting, so. But is he lead? Even though it's basically about him, so you'd have thought it should be. But yeah,
he would get Steinfeld into supporting.
So yeah, that's why I'm not committing any further too much. Once the lay of the land, because I'm pretty sure like half of them are showing up at the London Film Festival, we'll get a better gist of where I might be putting stuff.
All right. Thank you for your timing, Brian. It's impeccable because I was waiting for your actor lineup so I can make the announcement before we go into the rest of the chat and myself. Actor lineup, Gary Oldman for Mank, Delroy Lindo for The Five Bloods, Jamie Foxx for Soul, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey, and Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah.
Is that Fox mention's pretty inspired.
Yeah. Speaking of Spencer, so many events in the entertainment industry about Princess Di. You've got Spencer, The Crown on TV, and a Broadway musical called Diana with a stage film production to be released on Netflix on Friday.
I still think the concept of that is amazing. The Broadway musical that obviously got cancelled because of the pandemic, or cancelled till later this year. But the film production of it is on Netflix before it even opens on Broadway, even though they're in reverse order.
All we need is an original album, and we've got everything in the form of entertainment.
I mean, just get Elton John's "Candle in the Wind" single from '97. It's probably cheap somewhere.
I don't think it'd be cheap, but okay.
They printed God knows how many. I can literally get one. Well, if you take off the postage and packing, it's like 10 pence on Amazon.
Smurfy Boy goes Bradley Cooper, Joaquin Phoenix, Will Smith, Denzel Washington, Peter Dinklage. Lorraine says Cumberbatch, Driver, Washington, Phoenix, and Cooper. Brian says Cumberbatch, DiCaprio, Michael B. Jordan, Smith, and Denzel. And I did a little bit of a change ski myself. Yeah, Cumberbatch dropped off mine too. Just like Jerry Seinfeld would have said back in the day, you never doubt the dink. So don't doubt the dink ever. Peter Dinklage for Cyrano replaced Benedict Cumberbatch. One Bill and Ted reference eliminates another. Joining the four of my best actor lineup, which remains Bradley Cooper for Nightmare Alley. I do think in Ashley's terms, he does get the double. Denzel for Tragedy of Macbeth. Will Smith for King Richard. And I'm sticking to him, Javier Bardem for Being the Ricardos.
Bry also adding that people are underestimating Journal for Jordan. There's another film that they're underestimating, which I'll mention in director. Oh, tension mounting.
Yeah, I was just about to mention, it's funny that I'm like the resident Denzel fanatic, and I kind of keep forgetting it. I'm a terrible Denzel fan.
Also, I do appreciate that when Lorraine put Nightmare Alley instead of Alley, it's just a bowling ball and some pins.
Yes, that's correct.
Emoji FTW.
So Brian says Lakeith Stanfield was his number 5 before he saw the Five Bloods. All right.
Into director.
6 up, 2 to go. We're due best director now.
I like this freezing just before the categories thing. If it has to do it, that's the best time.
You're not wrong.
All right, should I speed through director?
You probably should.
Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza, Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, Joel Cohen for The Tragedy of Macbeth, and Denis Villeneuve for Dune. I'm really on the fence about this Dune thing. Because like we were saying, Dune is either Fellowship in this scenario or it's Blade Runner. It's either going to be a really big player and Villeneuve's going to be like a threat to win and all that, or it's not going to get anything past text. And I keep just wanting to put him in, like I'm almost putting him in director supernaturally, like something takes over my body and what's in there. When somebody like, you know, Wes Anderson or Ridley Scott or Del Toro could go there. Maybe even Adam McKay, I don't know. But I don't know. I'm just possessed in putting Villeneuve in there, so that's where I stand on that until we see what ends up happening, because it's either going to be just a tech movie or it's going to be really big. After the reactions to the first trailer of Macbeth make it sound like Cohen is a really good bet. Apparently he's doing really interesting things visually with it. Like the reaction, not that they're similar in style, but the reactions I was reading to Macbeth's trailer kind of reminded me to the first reactions I heard to the Revenant trailers, which makes me really confident in putting him here. Campion has been foregone for a while. They love Paul Thomas Anderson, and is it out of line to say Branagh might be the front runner right now?
I mean, with the momentum from TIFF.
I said it's early right now, but if we're just talking right now, that's what it looks like.
I mean, it's obviously when it gets over to here, it's gonna get obviously probably a lot more acclaim than it is anywhere else. So the fact that TIFF acknowledged it as the best film probably means actually no, it can't win best film because it's not nominated, because apparently there's only like 6 or 7 films that are allowed to be best picture at the London Film Festival. So if hardly any of the films are in competition, why have it? Okay. I might as well roll into my 5 then, Owen.
Yep, please do.
I have Paul Thomas Anderson for Barbra Streisand, Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, Jane Campion for Power of the Dog, Denis Villeneuve for Dune, and because it happened the last 2 years, let's go with the foreign one, Paolo Sorrentino for Hand of God.
I swear to God, if that shit happens, I'm going to be so incredibly pissed off that I dropped him.
You can put him back in next month. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
If I give up on Villeneuve, that might be what happens.
Things need to occur. Yeah, I just, again, with the plaudits that's getting, I also love the fact, because the title I was like, that obviously relates to something that Diego Maradona did at the World Cup Soccer in '86. Of course he tried to sue the thing because he thought it was about him, and then when they realised, no, it's just basically Paolo sort of telling an autobiographical story of something that happened to him when he was young back in the day, i.e. sort of like how you said last month about how it's, to some extent, it's Sorrentino's Roma to Alfonso. Yeah. So yeah, that obviously got thrown out of court. It's just, you know.
And obviously, we pretty much already mentioned this, but not in these words. Obviously, Belfast is pretty much Branagh's Roma, so it's
and it's black and white as well.
Honestly, you know what interests me the most about Belfast that I saw?
Hmm.
It's only 97 minutes.
Oh yeah.
That's very swift for a movie like that.
My
All right.
my only problem with it is it's overly. I mean, I understand why it's overly reliant on Van Morrison because he is Northern Irish, but considering it's annoying because it's like he's written a new song for it, which is probably going to be in the best song contention. But considering his views on vaccines and whatever, I so don't want to select it.
All right. So Brian's personal director lineup for 2020: Vinterberg for Another Round, Sorkin for Trial of the Chicago 7, Lee Daniels for United States versus Billie Holiday. You really marked out for that movie, Brian. Shaka King for Judas and the Black Messiah, and the winner, deservingly so, Emerald Fennell for A Promising Young Woman.
Yes.
Correct answer. All right, speaking of that, let's get with the rest of the chat. Smurfy Boys director lineup is PTA, Branagh, Wes Anderson, Joel Cohen, and Jane Campion. And Lorraine says Branagh, Campion, Scott for House of Gucci, McKay for Don't Look Up, Cohen for Tragedy of Macbeth, and Brian says McKay, PTA, Del Toro, Campion, and the one that people are overlooking, Chloe Zhao for Eternals. Interesting. AJ is set in shocked horror, looking around and everything right now. He's like contemplating the world.
I feel that the problem with Eternals is, I know it's not it's a semi-Marvel movie because Sony's producing it, but because of the time gap in releases, nobody's going to remember Eternals considering whatever's going to happen with Spider-Man, be it good or bad.
That's fair.
It'll be interesting to see. It's certainly got the potential, but quite a bit of the Eternal stuff from what I've seen from the trailers sort of looks okay, but not sort of like blow away brilliant. Then again, of course, they're probably not trying to reveal their hand too much. If it goes wrong, Xiao's getting personally blamed rather than Kevin Feige or anything. That's what I fear, though.
It is possible.
I'll just say my stance on the Zhao thing is I've made it clear I don't like to be that guy that says you're wrong with complete and total confidence. So that's why I'm just kind of not.
Yeah.
No, I don't foresee that happening, but anything's possible.
All right. So Brian also says I almost considered Almodovar for director. Yeah, I know it really feels like I'm replacing House of Gucci in every way possible, and it looks like in director I did exactly the same. Ridley Scott drops out of my lineup to put in, guess what? Kenneth Branagh for Belfast.
Yeah.
That just makes sense.
Good old Chuckles. Yeah.
Joining Joel Cohen for The Tragedy of Macbeth, PTA for Licorice Pizza, Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, and Guillermo del Toro for Nightmare Alley. Del Toro was on the bubble at one point here, but I still have him in here. I'm not getting on the Villeneuve tray. Not at all. It may happen. It may not. We don't know. It's September. Keep that in mind. I may eat my words like I did with Mad Max. It's very possible.
Just a clarification: is it a Villeneuve train or is it a Villeneuve giant bloody worm coming out the desert?
I mean, I don't recommend either one. That's just fine. Smurfy Boy says Kevin hyped Eternals up to be their next Oscar contender. We'll see. That might be a thing. It may not be. Who knows? But yeah, that's my director lineup. short, straight and to the point. Nothing really that's changed much other than the elimination of House of Gucci for Belfast. So, speaking of that, Best Picture.
Here comes the 10.
Yes.
Hopefully,
I said
I've been
10,
thinking like
hopefully we timed it right for the dramatic pause.
All right, so keeping in mind what I said about Dune, where it's like initially people could be dismissive of it because it's like, oh, it's an incomplete movie because it's gonna hopefully have a part 2, and the way they're gonna.
Oh no!
Damn it!
But in general, I said it could be big or it could be nothing. But again,
briefly,
we heard a little bit. You're good. Continue.
Okay, we're back. I'm watching it go into the red and then back into the green. So with putting Villeneuve in, I've been putting just Dune in picture. So with that in mind, I have Belfast, Don't Look Up, Dune, The French Dispatch, House of Gucci, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and The Tragedy of Macbeth. I took out West Side Story at the last minute because I feel like it's only going to be a tech thing. If it gets in, it'll be based solely on text, which is basically what I'm feeling about. I mean, I've got them in screenplays, but Don't Look Up and Nightmare Alley will have like just enough behind them with the 10 slots. If like Don't Look Up isn't as strong as a normal McKay movie, just the prestige behind everything else could be enough to propel it there in the cast and everything. And Nightmare Alley could have like enough if it does as low as I think it is, and it would be as much of a contender as people are building up now, there'd still be like just enough behind it to propel it here. I still feel like there's something random that could make it here that is off the radar, but in the meantime, I don't know what that would be. That's not one of these, so that's how I came to these.
All right, Ashley, what do you got? Best Picture.
I have Belfast, Coda, Dune, French Dispatch, Hand of God, House of Gucci, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, Passing, and The Power of the Dog. Because films that start with the letter Q to Z are not allowed, apparently.
That is a fair assessment, sir.
So yeah, quite a few moved out. Mass, I can't remember what I moved in, but Mass went out just because, again, I want it to be, and I hope it does get in there. You know, I hope my early confidence in it actually does pay dividends. Last Night in Soho seems to have somewhat of a mixed response, so I don't think there's much chance with that. Still, you'll notice I didn't have Don't Look Up in anything. That's how bad the trailer looked to me. It didn't seem like the acting performances are very good. The scripting, it was a weird clip to show. It even made Meryl Streep look average. And if you do that in a film, boy, you're failing.
You just scared me into thinking something.
Meryl
Where
Streep
I said a lot of my
Best Actor
confidence.
and actress and supporting actor, and then it turns out that she actually did the editing. She wins everything.
When I was talking about the reason I had trust in Don't Look Up, at least as far as screenplay and prestige, was because DiCaprio turned down Licorice Pizza and Nightmare Alley for it.
Right.
I'd forgot a lot of that was probably based on the subject matter too, so that could be what brought him to it.
Keep in mind, he's also been busy for the past 8 months doing Scorsese's new film, so.
Oh, yeah.
Which will probably be like 7 hours long if we're going on the trend of like Silence being 3 hours and, you know, Irishman being 3.5. It'll now be 4 hours long.
At the rate Scorsese's going, do it. Make it 7 hours.
Built-in bathroom break.
I also saw a random tweet today about when Stellan Skarsgård, you know, obviously was in the 4 film and whatever. when they brought up the whole Scorsese's comments about the MCU. Rather than just ripping into Scorsese, he ripped into capitalism. Skarsgård is that outside the box. Scorsese's like, what the hell is my comeback to that?
Well, if you're playing along at home, then you would know that we're at Best Picture when it comes to Brian's 2020 list. We've got My Octopus Teacher, Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution, Onward, Nomadland, Wolfwalkers, Another Round, Promising Young Woman, United States of Billie Holiday, which I thought was going to win, Judas and the Black Messiah, and his Best Picture, The Trial of the Chicago 7.
I really like that Wolfwalkers mention especially.
Yeah. Less so about Octopus Teacher.
Yeah.
I feel that was very manipulative.
And to take it home here, Brian's Best Picture lineup: Belfast, Don't Look Up, Dune, Eternals, The Humans, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Mass, Nightmare Alley, and The Power of the Dog. Lorraine says Belfast, Power of... Go ahead. Someone cut me off.
No.
It felt like someone cut me off.
No.
Anyway. All right, fine. Lorraine says Belfast, Power of the Dog, House of Gucci, Nightmare Alley, Coda, Licorice Pizza, Dune, Don't Look Up, Tragedy of Macbeth, and French Dispatch. Thank you, Lorraine. I will not die alone on this train. Smurfy Boy says Belfast, Licorice Pizza, Dune, Nightmare Alley, King Richard, Tragedy of Macbeth, Power of the Dog, House of Gucci, Mass, and The Humans. Best Picture for me, Being the Ricardos, Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, The French Dispatch, King Richard, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, Licorice Pizza, and The Tragedy of Macbeth. Once again, even though I said I didn't do it, I guess somehow along the way I replaced all of my House of Gucci references with Belfast. Not on purpose. It's just how everything fell. Brian says it sucks to take Wolfwalkers out of director. So. That is your show, ladies and gentlemen.
Trying to have a quick look.
And thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Go ahead. I'm just...
Thanks. I'm trying to put everybody over here. Thanks for joining us on a Monday night or a Monday afternoon or a Tuesday evening or whatever time it is in your time zone right now. Thank you for joining us tonight on such short notice. I'll shoot with you right now. October's interesting because that final week of Halloween Horror Nights, we literally have one day off, and that would be Monday. So unless something drastically changed, which I see no reason why it will, the Popcast for Halloween Horror Nights final week and the October edition of our Oscar predictions, mark your calendars, October 25th. Should be 7 or 8 p.m., somewhere in that time frame. So real quick, I want to thank everyone for joining us in chat tonight. Lively chat, as always. We really appreciate you guys and girls out there giving all of your predictions, and we're curious to see how that changes throughout the rest of the run. As we move on to November, December, and then we finally get into our predicting everything, which is always going to be the fun part and the long shows at all. But thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight. Ashley, thank you for joining us today.
One thing I do want to quickly mention, if you are in the UK and you're watching this, selected cinemas, I don't know whether it's just Empire Cinemas, because it's the only ones that are around near me, they are doing a special satellite event screening of the opening film, which is the world premiere of The Harder They Fall. um, a week on Wednesday, so the 6th of October. So if you do want to see, that's another one that I don't want to put in because nobody's seen it yet. It's certainly got a great cast, and it's good to see possibly a black-led western after so many years of the historical. I wouldn't say whitewashing, but certainly just the Italian and Spanish stuff. I guess the closest we got was Denzel being in Magnificent Seven that I can think of off the top of my head. Trying to think. I guess Morgan Freeman
And
and
there's,
Unforgiven as well.
So there's the Mario Van Peebles movie, Posse, I think it was called.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you want to see a possible awards contender, it's out there. I think the tickets are a bit too pricey compared to how much it was last year for Ammonite. And then again, saw what happened with Ammonite. It just made Kate Blanchett get an Emmy for Mayor of Easttown. So, not love of her performance in Ammonite, but that's because what she did in between. Whatever. Go watch films. That's what I'm saying.
Actually, he's going to be back with more videos in the future. Somewhere in November, he'll be returning. The reason I say that is, of course, AJ's got the network for October. So, and then when November
I'm trying to work out whether I should give a British person's thoughts on No Time to Die and be absolutely spoiler free without, doing anything.
I mean, by the time the videos are posted, it'll be after November 2nd. So, I mean, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, but we're saying, if my aim is to see it this coming Monday, so whether I can actually, next week. So if I shoot it then, it can be up for sort of a few days before. Because I'm guessing, AJ, you're seeing it first day possible, right?
The 8th, and I still kind of can't believe that it's like here.
Yes.
Like it's one of those, I'll believe it when I see it.
It's delayed and delayed and delayed. It's like, why are we rehyping the Billie Eilish thing? It came out 10 months ago. Like,
I even know what time I'll be going. So we'll see how it plays out.
Plus, I'm hoping to see it at least anyway in the IMAX with the extra wide, tall stunt sequences and all that. So, first time it'll have been for quite a while as well. So, let's hope this trend continues. Anyway.
So yeah, more gaming content coming in November. So look forward to that. More Snack Stashes coming in November. So get ready for that. And January, keep this in mind. I say this on an Oscar Popcast. Wrestling returns to this network, and we're very excited to be able to talk wrestling again. Real wrestling stuff that I enjoy, not just stuff that I'm having to talk about just because it's popular. AJ, of course, he does not have social media, but his birthday's coming up next month, so you obviously can. We'll put that over after because he'll be officially another year old, just like I was next Popcast. So that's something we can talk about in the near future. But yeah, if you have any questions for AJ, any comments, any ideas for verses like Goodfellow Tim talked about earlier, shoot them my way or leave a comment on one of these videos or podcasts. And sure enough, AJ will answer them in a couple years when he does one of those nice hodgepodge videos we love so much. So Cassie says the bowling alley with the pins could be the new screensaver for this year. My favorite is still Donkey with headphones. Never forget Donkey with headphones.
Hang on. Oh, we'll do that. We'll do that as the outro. We'll do that as the outro screen.
So once again, AJ is moving the network along. Lots of AJ's movie reviews, lots of verses, lots of AJ's TV reviews. It's another thing that we're doing. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. And on my Twitter at Sir Owen Disney is how you're going to be able to get access to all of these videos if you haven't subscribed to the network. It's a way you can do so as well. So you can find all the videos and we'll be posting them on at Sir Owen Disney. as soon as they go up, along with all the Voices of Liberty videos when they come back in November. Ironically enough, I lose them in reality, so it's going to be great to be able to put up videos while I'm not able to experience Voices of Liberty, but that's another story for another time. Needless to say, we got a lot more stuff, a lot more sipping snacks coming in the near future. I filmed a lot, and there's still more to film as well. The unboxing videos should be starting around December or January, so get ready for that, because I have a closet full of stuff. AEW action figures that need to be unboxed, to say the least. You can follow me on Twitter, like I said, at SirOwenDisney, and thank you for everybody that's joining us tonight. Thank you for chat. Thank you for everyone. Go check out movies. And in a world where there are several Academy Awards prediction podcasts, thank you, everyone, for choosing a podcast tonight. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Go see Water Parks on tour next month. And that's all we got to say about that.
Now I'll do the best thing and start eating. Donkey! Oh, hail the mighty donkey! Oh, hail the mighty donkey! Am I doing this because I need to press the end stream button? Maybe.